Darkness didn't fall that day. It arrived quietly. Every breath inside that room was measured, every second slipping away. A legend lay still, while the world outside had no idea. Music was about to lose its heartbeat. Time froze at 2:26 p.m. when a voice that shaped generations fell into silence. He wasn't just a superstar. He was a movement. And this was his final moment. What happened behind closed doors, when the cameras were off, and the truth was hidden. This is not a theory. This is not a retelling. For the first time, through 3D reconstruction, you will witness the final minutes of Michael Jackson's life. This is not just the story of how Michael Jackson died. This is the story of how he was failed by the people he trusted, by the industry that consumed him, and by a medical system that prioritized profit over protection. This is the story of the final hours, the truth, and the aftermath that changed nothing. To understand his death, you must first understand his life. Michael Joseph Jackson was born in Gary, Indiana in 1958. By the age of 6, he was already working, not playing, working. He never knew childhood. He knew rehearsals. He knew perfection. He knew fear. His father, Joseph Jackson, ruled with discipline bordering on cruelty. Michael would later describe being so terrified before performances that he would vomit. Fame became his cage. By the time he was an adult, Michael Jackson had spent 45 years performing, 45 years being watched, judged, worshipped, vilified. He became the most famous person on earth, and the most misunderstood. Behind the glittering costumes and moonwalks was a man in chronic pain, physical and emotional. Years of intense choreography destroyed his back and joints, multiple surgeries. Prescription painkillers became routine. But the deeper pain was invisible. Insomnia plagued him for decades. He could not quiet his mind. He could not turn off the noise. Sleep, for Michael Jackson, became impossible without chemical intervention. He was lonely, desperately lonely, surrounded by millions who claimed to love him, yet isolated in a way few human beings ever experience. And in that isolation, he became vulnerable to people who saw him not as a man, but as a profit margin. March 5, 2009, the O2 Arena in London. Michael Jackson stood before the world and announced his return. 50 concerts, a final bow. He called it "This Is It." But behind the scenes, this was not Michael's idea. He was under immense financial pressure. Neverland Ranch was gone. Lawsuits piled up. He owed hundreds of millions of dollars. The concert promoter, AEG Live, saw an opportunity. They offered him a deal he could not refuse. AEG stood to make nearly $500 million. But there was a problem. Michael Jackson, at 50 years old, was not physically or mentally prepared for what they were demanding. Rehearsals began in April 2009 at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Dancers and crew members later testified that Michael often appeared disoriented, cold, and frail. He would rehearse in multiple layers of clothing, even under hot stage lights. His weight dropped to barely 130 pounds. Yet the show had to go on. Too much money was at stake. AEG pushed forward. And Michael, ever the perfectionist, pushed himself beyond human limits. But there was something else destroying him, something invisible, something that would ultimately kill him. He could not sleep. 1 week before his death, Michael Jackson was trapped in a spiral. Rehearsals were grueling. His insomnia was unbearable. And his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, was administering dangerous drugs inside Michael's home every single night. Conrad Murray was a cardiologist from Houston, Texas. He had met Michael years earlier and had been hired in May 2009 to serve as his personal doctor for the tour. His salary, $150,000 per month. Murray's job was simple: keep Michael healthy and ready to perform. But instead, he became something far more dangerous. He became Michael's drug supplier. For weeks, Dr. Murray had been giving Michael a surgical anesthetic called propofol to induce sleep. Propofol is not a sleep aid. It is used in operating rooms to render patients unconscious during surgery. It requires constant monitoring by an anesthesiologist. It should never, under any circumstances, be used in a home. Michael called it his milk. It was the only thing that gave him rest, and Dr. Murray, despite knowing the risks, gave it to him night after night. June 18th. Michael rehearses at the Staples Center. He seems better, more energized. The crew is relieved. June 19th. Another strong rehearsal. Michael dances through Thriller and Billie Jean. He smiles. He seems hopeful. June 20th. A day off. Michael rests at home. Dr. Murray is with him. June 21st. Rehearsal. Michael is slower, quieter. He complains of being cold. June 22nd. Michael requests propofol. Murray administers it. Michael sleeps for a few hours. June 23rd. Michael's last full rehearsal. He performs Earth Song. The crew applauds. He leaves the Staples Center just after midnight. He will never return. June 24th. Michael spends the day at home with his children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket. He seems tired but affectionate. He kisses them goodnight. He tells them he loves them. It is the last, normal moment of his life. 11:00 p.m., June 24th. Michael Jackson returns home to 100 North Carrollwood Drive. Dr. Conrad Murray is already there, waiting in the upstairs bedroom that has been converted into a medical suite. Michael is anxious. He has been unable to sleep properly for days. He is terrified that exhaustion will ruin the rehearsals. He begs Murray for his milk. Murray hesitates, but not for long. 12:30 a.m., June 25th. Murray begins administering sedatives. First, Valium, 10 milligrams. Michael does not sleep. Then lorazepam, 2 milligrams intravenously. Still, Michael is awake. 2:00 a.m. Murray tries midazolam, 2 milligrams. Michael's eyes remain open. He is desperate now, pleading. 3:00 a.m. Another dose of lorazepam. Nothing works. Michael is wide awake, agitated, begging for the propofol. Murray later claims he tried to refuse, but Michael, according to Murray, insisted. "I have to sleep, Dr. Conrad, I have to. They'll cancel the show." 10:40 a.m. After hours of failed attempts with other drugs, Dr. Murray finally gives in. He administers 25 milligrams of propofol through an IV drip. Slowly, drop by drop, Michael's breathing slows, his body relaxes. Finally, he sleeps. But Murray makes a catastrophic mistake. He leaves the room. Propofol suppresses breathing. It suppresses heart function. It requires continuous monitoring, pulse oximeters, breathing tubes, resuscitation equipment on standby. None of that is present. Murray later admits he left Michael alone to make phone calls, business calls, personal calls, for nearly an hour. At some point during that hour, Michael Jackson stopped breathing. 12:12 p.m. Murray returns to the bedroom. Michael is not breathing. His eyes are open. His body is cool to the touch. Murray panics. Murray begins CPR, but he does it wrong. He performs chest compressions on the bed instead of a hard surface. He does not call 911, not yet. Instead, he calls Michael's personal assistant. "Get here now. Mr. Jackson had a bad reaction." 12:21 p.m. 9 minutes after finding Michael unresponsive, Murray finally tells a security guard to call 911. The paramedics arrive within 4 minutes. They find Michael Jackson in full cardiac arrest. No pulse, no breathing, pupils fixed and dilated. He has been down for too long. But Murray insists they keep trying. He demands they continue resuscitation. He does not tell them about the propofol. He does not tell them the truth. 1:07 p.m. The ambulance leaves for UCLA Medical Center. In the back, paramedics continue CPR. But they know Michael Jackson is gone. 1:14 p.m. The ambulance arrives at UCLA. Michael is rushed into the emergency room. A full trauma team is waiting, but there is almost nothing they can do. For over an hour, doctors work on Michael Jackson's body. They pump his chest. They shock his heart. They inject stimulants. But his brain has been without oxygen for too long. His organs are shutting down. 2:26 p.m. Dr. Richelle Cooper looks at the clock. She looks at the monitor. Flatline, she calls it. Time of death, 2:26 p.m. Michael Jackson is dead. Within minutes, the word spreads, first to family, then to staff, then to the world. At 5:26 p.m. Pacific Time, TMZ breaks the news. 30 minutes later, other media outlets confirm it. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, is gone, and the world fractures. On June 26, 2009, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office began the autopsy of Michael Jackson. The procedure took several hours. What they found would confirm the worst fears and expose a pattern of medical negligence that shocked even experienced forensic pathologists. The official cause of death: acute propofol intoxication. In simple terms, Michael Jackson died from an overdose of a surgical anesthetic that should never have been in his home. But the autopsy revealed more. Michael's body also contained lorazepam, midazolam, diazepam, and traces of other sedatives. His system was flooded with central nervous system depressants. When combined, these drugs created a lethal cocktail that shut down his respiratory system. Dr. Christopher Rogers, the chief medical examiner, explained that propofol alone is dangerous outside a hospital. It stops a person from breathing naturally. The body forgets to inhale. Without a breathing tube and constant monitoring, death is almost inevitable. Michael's lungs showed signs of chronic inflammation. His heart, while structurally sound, had stopped because his brain could no longer send the signal to breathe. He essentially suffocated while unconscious. The toxicology report was damning. The levels of propofol in Michael's blood were consistent with those used during major surgery, but there was no anesthesiologist, no emergency equipment, no proper monitoring, just Dr. Conrad Murray and a rented bedroom. The coroner ruled the death a homicide, not murder, homicide, meaning Michael Jackson's death was caused by the actions of another person. That person was Conrad Murray. Within days of Michael's death, investigators descended on 100 North Carrollwood Drive. They found IV stands, medical equipment, empty propofol bottles hidden in closets, and evidence that Dr. Murray had been purchasing massive quantities of surgical anesthetics for months. Phone records revealed that Murray had been on the phone for over 40 minutes during the critical period when Michael stopped breathing. He had called his girlfriend. He had called his medical practice. He had sent text messages, all while his patient lay dying in the next room. On February 8, 2010, Dr. Conrad Murray was charged with involuntary manslaughter. He pleaded not guilty. The trial began on September 27, 2011, in Los Angeles. It lasted 6 weeks and became one of the most watched legal proceedings in history. The prosecution presented devastating evidence. Medical experts testified that Murray's actions violated every standard of care. He administered a dangerous drug in an unsafe environment. He failed to monitor his patient. He failed to call for help immediately. He performed CPR incorrectly. He lied to paramedics and emergency room doctors about what drugs he had given Michael. The defense argued that Michael Jackson had somehow administered additional propofol to himself while Murray was out of the room, causing his own death. Medical experts destroyed this theory, explaining that Michael was already sedated and physically incapable of such an act. Witnesses described Murray's behavior after Michael's death. He had demanded that staff help him collect medical vials and equipment before calling 911. He had attempted to hide evidence. He had shown more concern about himself than his dying patient. The most heartbreaking testimony came from Michael's children. Paris Jackson, just 13 years old, described saying goodbye to her father at the hospital, not fully understanding he was already gone. On November 7, 2011, After 9 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict: guilty of involuntary manslaughter. On November 29, 2011, Dr. Conrad Murray was sentenced to 4 years in prison. He served less than 2 years. Many felt the sentence was insultingly light. Michael Jackson's family wept in the courtroom. They had lost a son, a brother, a father, and the man responsible would walk free in 24 months. Murray's medical license was revoked, but the damage was irreversible. He had killed the most famous entertainer on the planet through sheer negligence and greed. The death of Michael Jackson triggered an unprecedented global outpouring of grief. Within hours, millions gathered in cities around the world: Tokyo, London, Paris, Mumbai, Mexico City, Rio de Janeiro, every continent, every culture, united in shock and sorrow. At the Apollo Theater in Harlem, where Michael had performed as a child, thousands laid flowers and candles. In Los Angeles, fans created a makeshift memorial outside the gates of his rented home. The walls were covered with notes, drawings, photographs, and teddy bears. Radio stations worldwide stopped regular programming to play Michael's music continuously. MTV, which had largely ignored him in recent years, suddenly filled its schedule with his videos. The same media that had mocked him, accused him, and profited from his suffering now rushed to canonize him. His music sales exploded. In the week following his death, Michael Jackson sold more albums than any artist in history. Thriller returned to the top of the charts. Streaming numbers broke records. The irony was cruel. In death, he was beloved again. In life, he had been crucified. On July 7, 2009, a public memorial service was held at the Staples Center, the same venue where Michael had rehearsed just days before his death. 17,000 people attended. Nearly 3 billion watched worldwide. His golden casket was placed at center stage. Stevie Wonder sang. Mariah Carey sang. Usher wept openly. Magic Johnson spoke of Michael's generosity. Brooke Shields spoke of his gentle spirit. But the most devastating moment came when Michael's 11-year-old daughter, Paris, stepped to the microphone. Her voice trembling, tears streaming down her face, she said, "Ever since I was born, Daddy has been the best father you could ever imagine. And I just want to say I love him so much." The world broke. Yet even in grief, there was exploitation. Media outlets dissected every moment. Tabloids published unauthorized photos. Conspiracy theories spread online. Some claimed he faked his death. Others blamed the Illuminati. The circus continued even at his funeral. Michael Jackson was laid to rest on September 3, 2009, at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. It was a private ceremony. His family finally gave him what he never had in life: peace. In the years following his death, Michael Jackson's legacy underwent a dramatic transformation. The accusations, the controversies, the ridicule, all of it seemed to fade as the world remembered what it had lost. His music became timeless again. New generations discovered Billie Jean, Beat It, and Thriller. His influence on modern pop music became undeniable. Artists from Bruno Mars to The Weeknd to Beyoncé openly credited him as their inspiration. The documentary, This Is It, compiled from his final rehearsal footage, was released in October 2009. It showed a dedicated, focused artist striving for perfection. It reminded the world of his genius. It also revealed how fragile he had become. But the documentary raised uncomfortable questions. Why had no one stopped the madness? Why had AEG pushed forward when Michael was clearly unwell? Where were the people who claimed to love him? In 2013, Michael's family sued AEG Live for wrongful death, claiming the company had negligently hired and supervised Dr. Murray. The trial lasted 5 months. The jury ultimately ruled in favor of AEG, finding that while Murray was unfit and incompetent, AEG had not hired him, Michael had. The truth was more complex. Michael had requested Murray, but AEG had negotiated the contract. They had financial control. They had the power to intervene. They chose not to. Michael's estate, managed by attorney John Branca and music executive John McClane, became one of the highest-earning estates in entertainment history. Through posthumous album releases, the Cirque du Soleil show, and continued music sales, Michael's estate has earned over $2 billion since his death. But money cannot replace a life. His 3 children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, now known as Biggie, grew up without their father. Paris has spoken publicly about her struggles with depression and the trauma of losing him. Prince has become an advocate for his father's legacy. Biggie remains private, shielded from the world that destroyed his father. The lessons of Michael Jackson's death have largely been ignored. Doctors still overprescribe. Celebrities still suffer in silence. The industry still exploits. Fame still destroys.